Hey everybody! In today's video, which is my last video of the year, I am going to show you how to do simple dry embossing for texture. Now I'm using a very teeny little stylus and a grid that is meant for Pergamano. These come in various different sizes and patterns, and I use them all the time for different purposes. And hidden in this video, even from me, is a paper test. So I'm actually going to test two different kinds of paper, and I wrote on the back what they are and then mixed them up. And you're going to see a very big difference in the way that this technique works on two different kinds of paper. So I'm using some colored pencils here, and I am just coloring over the dry embossed, debossing, just to show you what a fun pattern it gets. Now down here on the bottom, on this same first piece of mystery paper, I am going to just color. You can color any color. I'm going to do a grass technique here, and so I like to do a very light yellow-green. And then I'm taking a stylus. You can use any size for different effects. And I'm just doing a flicking motion. Now I have a very firm Pergamano foam pad here, and I do recommend this for this technique because for different types of patterns, you are going to want to use some fairly heavy pressure. Now when I go over the top of this with a dark green pencil, you can see the grass pop out. And this is such a fun way to use colored pencils and to get texture and interest into your scene building with colored pencils and simple dry embossing. So I just love this look. I think it's super fun. I'm not doing any kind of blending or making this super smooth. I'm doing this to test out the paper and show you the technique. But you can spend a lot more time and make it more blended. You can use multiple colors, that kind of thing. You get the idea. So this is a few different ways that you can create texture. I do a galaxy very commonly with this technique with the little round pieces. So now I have another piece of paper and I don't know what this is. So I'm putting down the light yellow green. Again, it's really kind of a chartreuse, even if it looks yellow in the picture. And I'm using luminance pencils for this just because they are just the creamiest, blendiest pencils, and they will show the differences on the paper the best. The differences between the paper the best, I should say. So I'll go back in with my teeny tiny stylus and I'll make the same little dots through the Pergamano grid, so that I'm doing the same experiment on both pieces of paper. Now you can also do it without the grid, as you'll see me do several times, to get larger little divots in there. This is the really super fun way to get galaxies. So now I'll go over that and you can see how that pops. To me, this piece of paper seems to be much smoother than the first piece of paper, but I don't know what it is because I'm hiding it from myself. But I can tell a difference as I'm putting the pencil down, and you can also tell the difference just the way it looks. It's so much smoother, and it seems like the other paper has a little bit more texture to it. So here I will do the grass technique again, and you can see even here how much pressure I'm putting on the grass when I'm going into it, and that's when the firm pad is really your friend. So look how much smoother the green is over the grass. This is definitely a different paper, I can tell. So, and this is my preference. So it'll be interesting to find out which one it is. So that's a pretty big difference between the two. Interesting. So now I have two more pieces. We will try this again. I'll do a magenta this time. And you can see this is super quick coloring, nothing fancy or blended, but you can tell that these are two different pieces of paper as well. So one of them is much, much, much smoother. We're going to get the same result that we got the first time. And I think you'll see that one of these is far superior to the other one. Now you'll see me switch ends on the stylus. That's just to have a combination of thin little lines and thicker little lines. So as I put the purple down, you can see on this smoother piece of paper, it just makes such a huge difference immediately. And you can see that the texture of the lines gets super lost in the cardstock that is not as smooth. So if you're trying any technique, the materials that you use always really, really matter. And that's why I do these paper tests when I'm doing a technique. Now I can see flipping this over that that one is Bristol Smooth and the other one is Stonehenge. And you can see the Stonehenge is so much smoother than the Bristol Smooth, which surprises me because I use Bristol Smooth for a lot of things that require a very smooth paper. So experiment managed. That is so interesting to me. I'll be using Stonehenge for this little koi / goldfish card that I'm going to do. Now I'm taking the fine stylus, one of the very fine styluses, Styli, is it Styli? And I'm making some little scales on my fish. And I'm just going to show you, you can do this on a paper pad. You don't have to have the Pergamano pad, but the impressions will not be as deep if you don't use the foam pad. But just so that you can kind of use what you have, I think everybody has a pad of paper they could do this on. That is a good thing. So now I'm coloring over the marks that I made, and you don't have to worry about coloring lightly over the marks. You saw in the first ones that I was sort of holding my pencil sideways. Here I'm really not. I'm just holding the pencil like I normally do when I'm coloring, and you're still going to see the little dots that I put on the tail and the scales that I put on the front of the fish really pop out like you can here when I add the orange pencil. Again, I'm not doing any kind of super coloring technique. This is very quick, basic coloring. I have sped this up. This is about 2 times speed, but still it's super duper quick. So you can start to see the little dots on the tail pop out. And then when I add the shading with my darkest orange, you're really going to see a big difference with the scales and the little dots. But it's such a cool and fun technique, and it alters a stamp image, which if you've watched any of my videos, you know I love to add things or take things away from stamp images just to change them up a little bit from the original design. And this is one way that you can really add a lot of detail to outline images and make them more interesting, and also have that opposite look where most of the details of the stamp are in black. You also have these fun details in white where you can see the little dot and the scales. It's just a very addicting little technique. Now with luminance pencils, with any pencils that I use, I always do my final blending with the lightest color. You can even go all the way over the darkest colors if you'd like to blend, as you'll see me doing here on the little fins. And that just really makes the whole image very seamless. This is a very quick coloring job on this image, but normally I'll do 5 or 6 layers, with that last layer being the lightest color. I have found with luminance that 5 or 6 layers is the final blending layer based on the amount of pressure that I apply to these pencils. That will differ a little bit for each person. It just depends on your personal coloring style. But I find that I get to about 5 or 6 layers and the image is finished and you don't need any further blending. So that is what I am doing here, just touching up a little bit. And let me show you this up close so you can really see the contrast of the debossed portion of the image. And if you think about creating fur textures on little critter stamps or doing details on landscapes, this is the technique that you need to try. So I wanted to wish you all a very happy new year. Here's the finished tag that I made with this technique. Head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.